I think the stream should be back. It's back, yeah, I don't know. Streamlabs said the connection died, but I don't know what the issue was. It should be back, but I don't know where it cut off, so I'll just quickly show what I worked on in my free time while I was not streaming. And essentially I can just create a function with an arbitrary amount of arguments, and the code behind will transform it into a compatible format so the game understands it, and essentially declare it in a game script and simply pass the arguments, and all the magic behind this register function thingy will do some C++ template magic to deduce all the arguments and convert them and convert return types and adapt stuff, so I don't have to deal with shit and everything works. And for example, I defined some interesting thing, which is get player state, which allows to get the state for an imaginary player I'm playing with, and it transfers some angles, position, and some properties, and I can define them in C++ and return them to the game. And this is in fact quite interesting, because that way I was able to refine and implement the basic multiplayer logic, which is super basic, so there is nothing really fancy going on. But yes, exactly, kind of like MW2 player state. So it's just a structure, a collection of attributes that needs to be transferred through the network to replicate properties of a player. And let me activate the mode. And now I think, and there is also one important thing to note that I did, I made the mod compatible with Steam Deck. So when I do the same on my Steam Deck, I can essentially run around and you can see the player appearing. And what's kind of obvious is that transferring the position and stuff is super laggy still, but it kind of works. So you can see even the slightest movement is transferred, but it's still super laggy. The only thing that works super nice is I think when the player runs. Maybe I can change the position here. When the player runs, the movement is super smooth and the animations are super smooth. But for example, rotation is super laggy. So when the player rotates, that's super laggy, because it's kind of hard to predict that a player is rotating. So there is no elegant way to essentially know that the other player is rotating and pre-computing and predicting the movement to render or to display the animation before the packet arrives, because this is kind of what needs to be done. One needs to interpolate the stuff, and I think this will need a lot of work and a lot of fine-tuning. But it already works pretty well, and even if it's still shitty, it looks like a basic working multiplayer. And of course the position of my PC here is transferred to the Steam Deck, but I don't know how to stream the Steam Deck, so let's forget about that. But it works super nice. However, other than the position and the rotation and stuff like that, there is not much that is being transferred. But I think it's already some good progress, and I'm sure there will be a few streams coming where I'm gonna do more work on that, but I don't think that it will be the topic of today, because I'm still not super fit. So I'll do some relaxing side work that I definitely need to be done. And yeah, don't need the Discord here. So yeah, because if I launch the original game instead of my project, you will soon notice that it will crash because of the custom scripts, if it launches at all. And that's kind of annoying, because at times I still need to do that. And it always recompiles the scripts, and surprisingly it worked. But as soon as I start the game and launch and load my save game, it will crash, so no need to do that, because the scripts are incompatible with the game. And yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to load scripts from a different folder, and for that I try to find where the game actually loads the scripts, which should be something with mods, but that's not that. Something here that looks good. Yeah, that looks not bad. Yeah, so I guess here is where the game tries to search for scripts and compile them, and I think that might be a good place to start. Can maybe just set a breakpoint somewhere, debug that, and see where it leads. I think there should be some file enumeration or folder enumeration logic somewhere, which searches all the mods in this mod folder, but I can't see it at first glance. That's already too late. That's where it parses the scripts, I guess, so it must be somewhere here. Yeah, I guess it's... I'll just set a breakpoint somewhere and we'll see where it leads. By the way, is the music fine now? Or is it still too loud? Or not loud enough? Nice, nice. So I did some debugging, which might not be that interesting. Can yeet that. That's not what I'm interested in. I deleted my breakpoint. Nice. Okay, the game launched, but it ignored my... it ignored my breakpoint, so that's probably not a good place to start looking at. By the way, I have a question. To which degree are you flexible to determine what character represents the second player in the session? Have to be an NPC? I mean, for now, I can, if you're interested, I can basically show you what I scripted I'm essentially spawning a Vesemir entity. I tried to spawn a Witcher entity or a Geralt entity, but the thing is that any entity Geralt will be controllable by the player and will mimic behavior of the player, for example rumbling and so camera shaking that is caused by movement will be reflected in the camera of the player, and even if the second player being of type Geralt moves, the camera of you will shake, of your view, and that's kind of annoying. So there, I guess there is a lot of things one will need to have a look into. But essentially what I did is I'll spawn an entity, some random NPC, and once every, I don't know, I think it's 30 milliseconds or so, can't find the loop. Yeah, so I sleep for 0.03 seconds and then I try to get a new player state from the other player and will basically apply that state to the NPC, and the code is a bit not good, but it serves the purpose. And yeah, so I get all the properties and basically apply the stuff. So I teleport the player to the position with the new rotation angles and apply some velocity. I was hoping that jumping could be synchronized through that, but no, it doesn't work. And I apply the speed and set the move type corresponding to what the other player is doing and set the direction, and that was the basic things I did, and that works pretty well for those few lines needed. But of course there is a lot of work that needs to be done. I think synchronizing, there are so many more states that needs to be synchronized. For example, I mean, the other player could be on a horse, then that horse would need to be synchronized as well with the player on top of that horse. So the movement of the player on top of that horse would have to match what the horse is doing, but also the movement of the horse has to be synchronized. So there is a lot of stuff to do, and I think it's a long road to go. But for now, I think it doesn't make sense to work on that without having the basis, which is being able to load mods without conflicting. And sadly, the game didn't want to compile my scripts and didn't trigger my breakpoint. So we gotta figure out why. And I think the reason for that is because it still cached the compilation result. But there must be some find first file magic going on. So the game somehow has to enumerate the mods. But I can't see where. Maybe it makes sense to name some functions. This some kind of script compilation, and this, I don't know what that is. Yo Jimbo. Maybe I can find the other function again. I hope the fan in the background is not too annoying for you, but it's super hot and I don't think I could stream without the fan. And I think it should be something related to that. Something with mods. The other reference looks not so interesting. Only fan. Wait, I don't know what that does. I'm looking at it. Ah, I know what it is. It's some kind of name pool allocation, I think. So I don't think that's particularly interesting. Yeah, no. Okay. So I will try to touch the script to force a compilation and to see if that triggers the breakpoint. I hope it does, and then we can see the stack trace and look where the game comes from. I hope that works. Otherwise, I'm gonna end the stream because I have no idea where to look at. Nah, it works. Okay. So this is where the game finds the script files. The question is, why didn't it? I think it should always trigger that breakpoint. If I let it compile and run it again, it should trigger again. To be honest, I really love the IDA debugger. I use it all the time, even at work. And what's kind of unfortunate is there are some architectures where there is no debugger support. For example, on ARM with the muscle runtime, with the muscle libc, there is no debugger for example, for Alpine, well, that is used. So if you're running some kind of Alpine Docker container on some Raspberry Pi and you need to debug some binary there, I'm completely lost without my IDA debugger. It's kind of annoying. So I really love that thing. But yeah, let's restart the game. And I really hope the breakpoint triggers, because if it doesn't trigger, it's kind of sad. But it seems like if the game does not detect a change, it won't reach that point. Kind of interesting. Okay. So the game probably comes from here, and that comes from either here. That looks interesting. I think this is the file that contains the compilation result or something similar. I'm not really sure. Maybe setting a breakpoint there could be interesting. But for now, let's step through to see what it does. This will probably compile the mods, and then it will measure how long it will take to compile the scripts. And then it will probably compile the scripts here, or maybe not. Or maybe not. Yes, the base game compiles all the scripts on every launch, and if it detects a change, yeah, it probably did compile the script, but it compiled one of them, and this is the loop that probably compiles all of them. And once it is done compiling, we'll probably reach this point here. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's not that interesting here. Script collector. Nah, that function is at the moment not very interesting. Should compile them now. Yeah, it compiles them here, and once that's done, we reach this point, and then we're here to the compilation. I don't know what to name them, and this is the function that probably checks if there is a compilation necessary. It looks really interesting. Loading scripts. That thing looks interesting. Let's name this one load scripts. So I'm sure the game must call find first file either this one or that one. Oh, there are a lot of uses here. I mean, I'll just set a breakpoint everywhere. Yeah, exactly. It does have mod support, and the way it works is you have a mods folder in the game, and if you place a folder in there with mod and your mod name, it will load all the files in there matching the directory structure of the original game. For example, you can overwrite scripts from the game, the base script, and then it will load yours, so your script file instead of the game's, which is actually pretty nice. And it's just not super handy if I want to overwrite stuff that needs some C++ extension, which is then not compatible with the original game. So that should list all the files in the directory, which is probably not very interesting, because I assume it should check the mods. That's the other one. Let's have a look at the argument. That one's searching for DLLs, so that's not very interesting. And I think we're past the point. Ah, no, that could be it. Witcher content. It's kind of annoying that IDA does not display white strings correctly, but I can live with that. From Witcher content. That does not look interesting. That one searches probably the same thing. This is an older version of IDA, so I'm not using the most recent one because I have some plugins installed there that I need. So I should maybe switch to the latest one. Maybe that one works better, but it's not like that's a big deal right now. Erase, so that doesn't look interesting. That's probably not it. So now let's check out this thing. I assume this is some kind of formatting stuff. Where it formats the string. Yeah, it formats it. Okay. Some formatting. And then I guess they use white strings for the pass to be compatible with, I don't know, Chinese PCs or whatever. Having Unicode support isn't not really a bad thing. So there are a lot of plugins I wrote myself, and I don't think I'm really allowed to share them because I made them for work, and they are more related to DRM stuff, and I don't think they're really necessary or interesting here at this point. So I guess that's also uninteresting. And then we reach this point. That's not really helpful. I mean, let's have a look at it again. By the way, I added some nice console with which actually prints the debug output one can see here, because it's sometimes really interesting to see that. And calculate script CRC. That could be good. So it calculates the CRC, loads the scripts. So I think that one could be interesting. And then initializing scripts. Maybe searching for that could be more helpful. What is DRM? It's digital rights management. It's software that prevents you from copying games and stuff like that. So it's essentially protection against piracy. Okay, so here it does some script CRC. computation. And the question is, where does it get those scripts from? Either here, here, or here. I mean, let's try to set some breakpoints there and see what the game does. I'm still not sure if that one is interesting, but let's just say no. To be fair, Witcher 3 does not have many debug logging lines, so there is actually just a handful of prints that they do. But also, the game has all the raw scripts included, and it's very friendly for modders, so I think it's kind of intentional that they left stuff like that in. But they could have left more. That's the question is, I think this is where it prints, and this might be where it calculates. Maybe not. Raw file reader. That looks interesting. Calculate CRC. Open file, and I'm sure if we set a breakpoint here, we see what it tries to read. Okay, so it reads the first file. I would like to. To be honest, it's actually getting annoying that the strings are not properly formatted. But I never really had to deal with white strings. I know if you press A, it transforms it to a string, but it thinks it's regular string. I don't know if there is some setting here to tell it that it's a white string. I mean, there should be. That looks good. The question is, why did it create two strings? But I don't know. I don't care. The thing is readable. Okay, so it was Alt and A together. And I'm guessing that that was not a breakpoint. Anyways, it did only trigger this one, or did it trigger more? CRC computation, because I'm sure there is one computation for each folder the game supports. So it supports loading scripts from the base folder, which should be content 0, and then there is scripts in there. They are the core scripts, and then I assume that it does another CRC computation for the mods, and I would like to set a breakpoint at the create file function. Yes. And it does trigger, but I think this time it triggers from here. That's probably when it already detected that the scripts are outdated and tries to, I don't know, update CRC, compute the CRC for the newly compiled scripts. Yeah, it compiles the script, or maybe actually that's compile script, and it compiles the script and calculates the CRC for that script. Yeah, it instantiates some lexer and does the whole compilation step. Yeah. So this is some script compilation process, which is not really what I care about. Yeah, the song is not very good, so I skipped it. So, yeah. The first breakpoint was probably the interesting one. Let's just rerun the game. That is that is maybe interesting. I think that could be interesting. Let's name it maybe interesting. But it's still does not. Yeah, I think I'm gonna disable the breakpoint here. The question is, what is the object that the game passes as argument? Because it computes CRCs for a bunch of scripts. And And would be interesting to see where the file name comes from. Open file. Which is this. Interesting. It should call that function once for every script there is. At least I hope so. And it should have interesting data in there. Interesting, it checks my document. I don't know what that is. Yeah, this is me, the Momo. Okay, so I think this is... No, this is not what I'm interested in. Or maybe it is. Yes, I think this is an object that points to some kind of game string, which contains a pointer to the text and then the length. And then it essentially scans. But maybe this accepts more arguments. Let's check what's in the second one. Ah, there is a script file in there, okay. The second one is probably more interesting. And it comes from something like this. Okay, this is the first argument that comes in, and that's some kind of object. No, I did not dump the game, but the game has quite a few different variations. I think I have the Game of the Year variation and the regular one, and then there is a GOG one, so Steam and GOG, I think they have different binaries, and then I have the Game of the Year one, which has different binaries, and then I think there is a DirectX and non-DirectX 12 variant, so there are two variants per game, so there is not very much consistency throughout the binaries, which is something that I will probably have to think of, how to do the hooks and how to universally hook the game, or if I just want to support a single binary, stuff like that. But right now I don't care. So I think this is some kind of array And the length of this thing comes from here. Are all major functions different between binaries? I don't know. I haven't looked at all binaries. I just looked at, I think I once looked at the Steam variant and the GOG variant, and they were different, and then I stopped looking at the GOG variant and focused on Steam, because this is where about the game. Okay, but basically this is some kind of game array, and it will be interesting to see where that thing is computed, which is here. This does not only compute the CRCs, but it also collect scripts and compute. So I think this is somewhere where it collects all the scripts. Ah, yeah, that looks good. That looks really good. The question is, what I'm interested in, is there a way to make IDA print all the strings? Because I just want to see if the mods are included in this CRC computation. So if I set a breakpoint with a condition or trace. I don't want to break, I want to trace. And then I want some printing. So essentially I would like to print what's in RDX dereferenced. So I would like to print RDX as string, something like print RDX. But I'm sure that that won't work. That's syntax error. Let me quickly Google how that works. Can we just print the value of RDX in general? I maybe need the output window. So it printed something, which is not bad. But it's okay. Is there a way to do something like this? Ah, no, it doesn't support formatting. That would be cool. They are Unicode C-style strings. And I have the documentation open on another monitor. And I think print variables in the message window. Print text representation of all its arguments without the window. But there should be message. This intuitive encode message in message window. This supports formatting. So if I do message, not bad. It just doesn't support Unicode strings. So I found something and I hope it works. People are saying this could work. Which is not what I need. The question is, yeah, maybe writing a script manually would be the way to go. I just thought that code worked quickly, but this doesn't work. It's kind of sad that dereferencing registers like that doesn't work. I mean, maybe there is. That's... fuck it. I thought it could work, but let's just ignore that. Well, actually, I shouldn't have deleted that, because I know how to do it. I can just set a breakpoint at this open file function. I just forgot where it was. Here. I can just set a breakpoint here. I can trace and then print. Sadly, the script is gone. Message. RDX, and that will probably just not be it. Okay, let's not waste any more time there. So this is where the game collects the scripts. And it fills this kind of game array here. Collect scripts. I'm sure this is where the magic happens. So I bet there are a few interesting places in there. That one might maybe collect the game scripts. That one looks interesting. Oops. Ah. So I think the first part here might maybe collect the scripts of the base game. Maybe that as well. And then there is a second part down there collecting mods, I hope. I don't know. Because the question is, I think these folders need to be called mod. They need the mod prefix. And if they don't have the mod, ignore them. So maybe also searching for that could be a good hint. Maybe mod something. But IDA doesn't search for start of it. It does search for 3 character strings. Mod. So maybe could be that one of these references. Might be it. That one looks interesting. Mod settings enabled. Yeah. So this is some kind of game string registration, I bet. Oh no. What's this? Interesting. Yeah, let's just dive into this. Ah. So this could be interesting. goes there. Or that one might be interesting. Or not. Did it return something? No. Did this one return? No. Does it loop here? Yeah, it does. So this is where it enumerates the files, I guess. So I would assume that it calls find next file somewhere in that loop. But it didn't. This is kind of sad. But it did here. Maybe a good thing to look at is where it fills the argument. Because here, oops, it passes a pointer to the game array twice for whatever reasons. And it should fill that thing somewhere. Which is maybe not interesting. This one could be. Okay. Find next file. So it should. I don't remember how find next file works. I get some file data pointer. So here is definitely where it searches for scripts in my mod, but I think that's already too far. I just want to tell the game where to look for mods, and then when it knows where to look for mods, it can search for strings in there. But it takes, and actually looking at the parameters would have been interesting. This is the format string, and it takes some string, then a character. Which is probably the backslash. So the question is, what are the parts? I would like to know that. This is the first part, and then the second part is okay. So I think this is some kind of list files function, and it uses this. I think this is construct string or something. So this is a game string object. Oops. And then it searches for files, and I assume it searches for files in that folder here. And if we tell it to maybe search for files in a different folder, that could be it. Kind of messed up my breakpoints there. Ah, but it's already too late. I still think this could be very interesting. But let's skip that one for now. Because what it's doing here could already be too late. Because I think here what it does, it knows the mods and searches for script files for that mod. And I think that's too late. That's already where it collected the mods. But let's make sure that this is in fact correct and verify that. Constructs a string and then it lists the files in. This is the folder where it lists them. So this is the first breakpoint. I want the second one here and the third one here. Don't care about that one. Or maybe that's not too late. Maybe that's exactly where it maybe all searches for mods in the entire game directory. That could also be it. Because it didn't look like it checked specific mod folders. It just scanned the whole game. The question is, if I remove the mod prefix and I launch the game, it will obviously recompile the script. It did not recompile the script, which means that it respected that folder. So it doesn't matter that it's called mods. And it just that's renamed it. So if I change something, it should recompile. But it did not. So it probably really cares about the mod prefix. So this has to be prefixed with mod. I think maybe looking at or it checks the mod prefix might be better. So I don't know what this does. And I'm not sure if this actually... Ah, this is the string construction stuff again. Okay, it constructs the mod string and then it uses it somewhere, I guess. Here it does some comparison. It should be this one. Okay. And I think if we kill that check, it will load any mod. Even those without the mod prefix. So that's an interesting function. The question is, where does this come from? Mod name. Mod name comes from here, and then from here, here. Find next mod. This is from text file. That one's interesting. I think we're getting somewhere. I personally don't care, but the game checks that all the folders in this mods folder need to start with mod, and this is currently my best place to search for more information, because this definitely happens here, and I'm sure that find next mod is an interesting one. No, it's not a problem. The thing is, I want to be able to load mods from somewhere completely different. So not from the game directory, but from, I don't know, my own directory, something where I have my own program running. Because what I have here is essentially just a wrapper binary which loads the original game and which extends it so it adds the multiplayer functionality. And I don't want to be forced to have the game scripts that I need for the multiplayer to be in the game directory. I want them to be here. so that I can still launch the original game if I want to play it or for whatever reasons without injecting the conflicting multiplayer functionality. So this is the main reason behind it. And I hope so. There was nothing interesting in there. I have already seen that function. That one. But I don't know what it does. Question is, did it really find something? That one could also be interesting, the string conversion. But I think this is already where it scans for additional scripts. Maybe this is something in load mod scripts. But I think this is where the magic happens. The other places, they were not interesting. I just don't think this is the correct function to analyze. Here is some list files. So it searches the mod and puts it in the argument, I think. And it no, it doesn't. Okay, so that is still... That should return something, that function. What does this thing do? So there is nothing in there, but I'm not sure if that's an object or not. No. I think I'm missing something. This is where it reads this thing and then it puts it in there as a pointer. So this must return the mod name. But it doesn't. It's not in there. Maybe this fills it in. Maybe this is not find next mod. This is something like allocate string buffer, and this fill mod name. This fills it in. Then we should have the buffer as first argument. And then I forgot to save the location. And then it's in there. Okay, so that's the interesting function. That one. Whatever it does. And the question is, does it maybe just copy the buffer? I think it maybe just copies it. This is actually the mod name and this is the length. So this is where the mod comes from. And then it this is the mod list. Or mod array, whatever. And it fills it here, I guess. So this is probably where it finds the mods. I think all the other breakpoints are uninteresting. Yeah. Where it searches for mods. Nice. And the question is, where does the first argument come from? It comes from here. So this is the game path or mods directory. So that could be it. But I can't seem to find. Ah. Yeah, this is where it reads the mods directory. And I think hooking that function could already be the solution. It gets called quite a few times. Ah, maybe this is not what I think it is. Maybe this is not get mods directory. Maybe this only builds up some string. Takes 3 arguments and returns something. So the first argument is the game, and the second argument is mods. So this is actually not get mods, but some kind of join paths or something like that. And then the interesting thing would be where it gets the game path from. And essentially it would already be enough for me to redirect the game path to this folder. And that would already make me happy. And it gets it from here. Ignored my breakpoint. But this is still the game path. So at least that's correct. And I think I have an idea. I think hooking that function, changing the game path, and then changing the game path back could maybe be what I need to do. Let's see where this one gets called. Here. How many arguments? 2. think it returns a bool, but it doesn't really matter. So now the game uses some struct. Game string, which is a pair of string and size, but I forgot the size of the size. Looks like an integer, yes. By the way, are you guys still watching? There haven't been any messages in the chat for some time. Are you guys still awake? Of course, sounds good. And I think so this thing points to a game string. So this is this, and then I don't need this. Or maybe I can. Now I will just try some. I'm not sure if the struct is complete here. I hope it is. New path. And then we'll just do like string. I'll just hard code some new folder. And I'll actually move out the mods folder and hard code this path. And I hope this does not break the game. And question is, I don't know if the size is times 2 or not. But we will see that. And then we'll store the new path in here. And I hope it loads the mod. I think this is totally going to break. Just want to run the game once without the mod to make sure it has to compile the mod to see if it works. Yes, so the game launches without any mod. There's probably a unsigned int, and then this as well. I'm kinda nervous. I don't think it's going to work. So this is the game path, and it should contain the game path, and it ends with a slash. This is something I missed. And the question is if the size in there matches the bytes or the characters. But it matches the characters. Because this is... But it matches the characters, but I think it includes the null byte. So this is 3C, but this thing here is 3D, so this is this thing plus 1. And now I think it could work, but it also could not. So I'm pretty sure it's going to crash. The game path, okay. Construct a new path. We override it. And it was pretty fast. And it compiles the script. Holy shit. Yes. That looks really good. Now, if I run the game and I can execute my command in game. Maybe I should actually write some super quick test script. So let's just edit the mod in here. Mods local. Let's create a simple test tickles function. Or maybe let's choose a name. I think I already used that name once. Lul. And I hope that this triggers the script compilation again. But I think I understand what I did now. Because if one looks at the log, it says initializing scripts. And then it compiles them. So there is loading scripts and then there is initializing scripts before. So it initializes the scripts and essentially loads or finds directories that contain scripts, and just some time later it loads the scripts. And at the first, I think, hour of this stream, I was debugging the loading script stuff, which was not interesting because it already collected all the scripts. So this part that I noted at the beginning but I considered uninteresting was the relevant part. And I think it compiled the script. And I hope I can call my lul function. And it does not do anything. This is honestly very sad. It did not compile the script. Maybe I just launched the wrong one. But it's not recompiling it. So I think it doesn't care, which is a bit sad. If I remove the mod, no, it doesn't work. Sad. That did not work. So I think what the issue is that the game collects the scripts inside the game path that I specified, so it finds the new scripts. And then when loading them, it probably does not look for them in the overridden game path, but in the original one. So I think this is what happens. And to prove this, I think copying that mods folder again in here should show that. Because I think now the game does not know about mods in the original game folder when collecting them, because I'm overriding it here, but when loading them it searches them still in the original game. And yeah, I think that's it. Because let's just quickly go in game and see if I can execute the lol command. Yeah, the lol command works because it loaded the scripts from the game folder, and I bet that if I delete the mods folder from here, the game will not know about the mods folder here, even though the original game would. But as I've redirected it, it should not know the lol function. And if that's the case, I know what happens and I know what's missing. And if it still knows the lol function, I've wasted 2 hours reaching absolutely nothing. But the lol function does nothing, yes. Okay, so I have the mod in the game folder, but the game does not know about the mod. Okay, I know what happens. So it's exactly the two-part step. In the first step, the game discovers mods and scripts, and then in the second step it compiles them and checks if it has to recompile them. And by overriding the game path, I make the game search them here, and by not having a mods folder active right now, the game is not able to discover that I have a mod running, and thus it won't load it. And in the loading step, I did not override the game part, because I cannot do that just as I do it here, because this will also prevent the game from loading the original scripts, because they are not present in here. So as the game path is not overridden, it will try to search for the relative files relative to the mods directory or to the root directory in the original game path, and will try to compile them. And because right now there is no mods folder active in my new path, it does not know about them and cannot load them from the original game path. And initially, because I did not overwrite the folder, it cannot compile them. So only half of the work is done, sadly. And I wish it would have been easier, because I already spent 2 hours reverse engineering that. But I think at least the first hour was not wasted, because the loading part is also still relevant. And What essentially needs to be done is to tell the game in the first step to discover scripts here, and then in the loading part to also look for the scripts here when compiling them. And this is what's left to do, adapting the compilation part. And to be honest, I don't want to do that today. But at least it's a step in the right direction. Even if the code here is quite ugly and not good. From a reverse engineering perspective, I managed to understand what's going on and how it works. And this sadly still needs a bit more work, but at least that's content for a new stream. But I hope it was not too boring for you guys. I hope it was at least a bit entertaining, even if it was not 100% successful. But I think I'm going to end it here. I'm super tired. That was super exhausting. But yeah, I hope you guys had some fun, were entertained a bit. And I wish you a nice day and see you in my next stream.